Well, welcome back to Focus Today. Steve Johnson here with you, and we've got a guest who I'm hoping and I'm expecting, and I think he will be able to put things in perspective, because we've got a whole lot of stuff going on in Washington right now. And the guy that we want to talk to about all of that is Michael Connelly. He's been with us before. He's the Executive Director for the United States Justice Foundation. Michael, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Could you just give us a brief overview of what your Justice Foundation does? What's the role?
5 years, we've been handling cases involving constitutional issues for Americans. These involve all of the things from the First Amendment to the Second Amendment, Fourth, 10th, you name it. We deal with balance of powers issues when the government is overstepping its bounds. And so we have a number of lawsuits going on right now. One is a big one we've been working on for the past 2 weeks, and that involves veterans losing their Second Amendment rights. The VA is just taking it away from them. And so we do all of this for free. We don't charge our clients anything, certainly don't charge the veterans anything. We raise money independently, and we file briefs in the Supreme Court. We handle cases at the trial level, and we do what we need to do to try to protect Americans.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the one that you mentioned, the veterans losing their Second Amendment rights. Give us a little bit of a backstory. What's the issue there and how you're involved in that?
Well, actually, I broke the story on my blog about 6 or 8 months ago, and I found out that I got copies of letters that veterans were receiving from the VA saying that because of their physical or mental disabilities, they were going to be declared incompetent to handle their own financial affairs, and a fiduciary was going to be appointed to represent them. Now, the fiduciary program has been around for a while. It was designed for elderly veterans who might be suffering from dementia and couldn't handle their affairs. Now the VA has expanded that to include minor PTSD, veterans who may have said at some point that they're depressed because of the loss of a friend in Afghanistan or Iraq, or anything, even veterans having their spouses pay family bills. Then the letter goes on to say, once we declare you incompetent, we are going to instruct you that you can never own, possess, purchase, or transport a firearm or ammunition. If you do, you're guilty of a felony. We have 159,000 veterans right now on the list, the NICS list, the NICS list. That means that they cannot legally purchase a firearm in this country. And 99% of them don't belong there. They have never been adjudicated to be mentally ill, to be a danger to themselves or others. None of them have been convicted of any crimes, and the horror stories just keep rolling in. We sued the VA, tried to get more information. They've been stonewalling us, but we managed to get some information, and it's very damaging to the VA and to the FBI. And now we're going to file suit on behalf of these veterans because this just has to stop.
Why is it that the VA is even making this an issue? This seems to be a little bit of ways away, in fact, in the opposite direction, isn't it, of what their mandate is?
Exactly. And we're getting all kinds of information from inside the VA that this has come down from the Obama administration. The idea is that they want to disarm the American veterans as much as possible because there are 21 million of us out there. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I have a son currently in Afghanistan on combat tour number 7. I have another son who's a Black Hawk pilot. We're all took the same oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And here we have a president of the United States who ignores the Constitution, violates it on a daily basis. And of course, one of the first things that dictators do, or would-be dictators, is they try to disarm the population, and they start with the veterans. And we think that's what's happening.
Now, of course, the hearings that we've had recently in Washington, D.C., showing a very poor light on the Obamacare, I'd say the whole thing, not just the website, but so much of the lack of planning and all the rest. Are you involved at all in the backstory of some of these issues going on, since it does involve the president?
Oh, absolutely. I originally wrote an article back in 2009 on the first Obamacare bill, 3,200 article, or Bill 3,200, 1,100 pages long. I read the whole thing. I said then that it was not only unconstitutional, but was going to cause all kinds of problems. It was not about health care at all. It was about the takeover of our economy, and rationing health care was going to occur. All of this has started to happen. We're involved with the United States Justice Foundation in 5 lawsuits right now. 4 of them involve the HHS mandate on religious institutions or businesses owned by religious families who don't want to provide free contraception and don't want to provide abortion services to their employees because it violates their religious principles. We filed briefs in 4 courts of appeals on 4 different cases, and we're getting involved now in the case by the Pacific Legal Foundation that says since the Supreme Court ruled that the penalty for individual mandate violations is a tax and not a penalty, that the whole bill is unconstitutional, the whole law is unconstitutional, because all revenue bills, according to the Constitution, all tax bills must originate in the House of Representatives. The final version of Obamacare originated in the Senate, and we think that may take it down ultimately.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, let me ask you this. We know that Washington works on one track, and supposedly a lot of the Obamacare provisions are to be enacted early next year, and you have these court issues. Sometimes those go more slowly. Are you optimistic at all that the briefs that you filed will be heard anytime soon?
I think in some of the Court of Appeals cases they will be. In fact, we've actually won in one Court of Appeals already, and so that's going to be going to the Supreme Court. But like you say, it takes time. So ultimately, the Supreme Court is going to have to hear this. My concern is that while we need to do this and have to do this, that a lot of damage is being done. And we can see the damage on TV every day. We can see the people losing their policies. We can see what's happening to the promises that were made by Obama. And there may be other lawsuits that we get involved in involving some of these people who are all of a sudden finding out they can't keep their insurance that they like.
I think that when we have Democrats and Republicans, it's too easy to say, okay, this is a political problem that needs to be resolved. But you're looking at it from a legal standpoint, saying this is really against the Constitution. Is Congress at all doing anything, and I mean Democrats or Republicans at all, to resolve the issues that you have filed on, or are they working on another plane?
Well, they're working on various levels. And, the Republicans in Congress have been trying to defund Obamacare, trying to repeal it. That's not going to happen as long as the Democrats control the Senate, as long as Obama's in the White House. So from the constitutional aspect of it, no one has really stepped forward in Congress and filed suit on this on behalf of their constituents. Somebody probably should. But in the meantime, we're going to take the bull by the horns, and we're going to represent the people out there that need to be represented.
If a lawsuit was filed by, let's say, a congressperson, you say that would help your case, perhaps?
I think so, because I think that members of Congress would have standing on behalf of their constituents to raise some of the issues that we may have trouble raising, because you need specific plaintiffs with specific grievances. And in the case of a congressman, they can say, look, this bill, this law has taken away my right to represent my constituents. Because there's so many things in that law that basically turned over to the executive branch, to the president, immense power, which Congress didn't have to give in the first place, but which takes away the ability of Congress to oversee. There are 138 agencies in that law. None of them are overseen by the Congress. That is a violation of the Constitution, and that's where a member of Congress ought to step forward and say, look, you're taking away my constitutional obligation to represent my constituents.
I realize this is speculation, but hey, people do it in Washington and all the time. If Obamacare continues on the track that it's on now, what is, and I would assume that you're saying it would damage our country. Describe what you think would take place in the United States.
Well, I think you're going to have, not insurrection as far as going into the streets, but I think the voters are going to rise up next year. And I think they're going to take down a lot of these people who voted for this and continue to defend it. Because as I said, we were told that it would increase jobs in the healthcare market. In fact, 41,000 healthcare workers have been laid off this year alone. It would allow people to keep their insurance. They can't keep their insurance. Those that are being put on these changes are finding out they can't afford the prices that they're going to have to pay. Young people are not signing up. I think the fallout is going to be tremendous. I think it's going to could cause a virtual collapse of 1/6 of the U.S. economy. And I think people are going to react to that.
Now, you're, of course, in the trenches with all of this. I think a lot of people are, all of a sudden, the reality comes to them if they get a note that says, hey, we're canceling your health care policy, Acme Insurance or whatever it might be, because we don't fall within the guidelines of Obamacare. Is this the wake-up call that it takes for the average American to understand we've got a problem that needs to be fixed?
I think so. I think the Americans are waking up. I know that followers on my blog, and because I write about this and other constitutional issues, it's not just this issue. It's the Second Amendment issue. It's the idea that Obama continually violates his oath of office, the same one I took to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, which, by the way, is a criminal offense under federal law. If you take that oath and do something to denigrate the Constitution or destroy it. And I wrote an article on impeachable offenses about a year ago, and it was posted on a number of blog sites or websites. One of them has reported 25 million hits on that. So we're making an impact. People are starting to wake up. Just the volume of emails and phone calls I deal with the U.S. Justice Foundation on a daily basis indicates that people are getting very concerned.
Okay, we've only got a few seconds. Give us how the address, how they can follow you in your progress on these levels.
Go to USJF, that's the United States Justice Foundation, usjf.net. And you can read about what we're doing.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Michael Connelly, the Executive Director for the United States Justice Foundation. Thanks for being with us.